most everyone nowadays learns to read in school. But it wasn't always like that. Long ago, books were expensive, so only very, very, very wealthy people knew how to read. So artists working at this time, called Renaissance artists, created a kind of secret language. They would put objects into their paintings that had specific meanings. The people who lived during this time knew what the objects meant, and so they would put them together and read a painting, much like we read a story. So, paintings could give them advice. In this painting, you have a woman who is reading her Bible, which is supposed to mean that she's good. Next to her, her husband is counting his coins, and you'll notice she's a little distracted from her reading. The artist is actually warning people not to be distracted from doing good by wealth and fancy objects. We know this because in the background, he's blown out a candle, just as a reminder that all things come to an end, like wealth. Paintings could also tell things about people who were living. For example, this is a self-portrait. And in this self-portrait, the artist is bragging about what a great artist he is. Paintbrushes were made from animal fur, and he put a fur around his neck that was the same type of fur his paintbrushes were made from. By touching it and drawing attention to it, he was basically screaming to his audience, "I am a great artist." Take a moment and think back on your week. Come up with a symbol or an object to represent something that happened to you or how you felt in this past week. For example, I started a new class. I think a good symbol for this would be a butterfly because butterflies start out as caterpillars and then turn into butterflies, which could represent starting something new. But you think of something that happened to you and think of your very own symbolic object that you could use for that. Pause the video while you think about this, and then raise your hand and share it with the class. Now, let's consider how to put symbols together to tell a more complete story. Let's say that last night, your mom burned dinner, and everyone was really hungry, so you ordered pizza. If you wanted to choose symbols to represent that story, you might want to start with a symbol that represents hunger, like an empty plate. Then you would want to choose something to represent the pizza or solving the hunger problem. Think about what object you would use to do that. Pause the video while you think about it, and when you have it, raise your hand and tell your class. Today, you are going to think about a story or an experience that you had that you want to make a drawing about. We're going to brainstorm different objects that you can use as symbols to help represent this story or experience. You'll want to start with an empty page and think of as many objects as you can come up with to represent your experience. For example, over the summer, I went on a vacation with my family. I want to include a bunch of symbols that represent what happened to me. I would always get up early with my sister and drink a hot mug of tea, so I'm going to make sure to include that to represent my sister. There was a fireplace where we would sit and talk at night, so I want to include that to represent the time that we spent talking and laughing. It was by the water, and we went on a lot of hikes, so I'll choose a butterfly to represent the outdoors. And it was hot, so I'm going to include an ice cream cone because ice cream reminds me of summer. So you get the idea. You're first thinking of a story or an experience that you want to make a drawing about, and then you are brainstorming symbols that can help represent that experience. Your teacher will have some handouts that you can reference for ideas, and you can use the drawing ABCs to help you copy some of the images.